on to example 3. Now, in this case, our denominator is going to have repeated factors. So here's what I mean. X plus 1 squared, we know, is just x plus 1 times itself. So I wrote it out like that. So now you can see I have a repeated factor in the denominator. Now let's talk about what to do this. Let's say I just tried to do this like I did last time by splitting up my factors like that. However, if we were to do it like this, can't you see that we already have a common denominator? So then I would just combine my numerators over my common denominator like that, because they already have the denominator in common. Just combine those together. But this is not the same thing as that. This one only has one x plus 1 on bottom. This one has two x plus 1s on bottom. So this method that we did in the last videos is not going to work. So here's how we handle this. We're going to take one of these and square it. So then this way, they don't have a common denominator anymore. I would need to times this one by x plus 1 times x plus 1. Now they'd have a common denominator, and I can work on combining the numerators. So basically the rule is anytime you have a repeated factor in your denominator, you're going to have one of them that is single, one of them that is squared. If you have cubed, fourths, fifths of that, keep going, have one of them cubed, one of them to the fourth, one of them to the fifth, up until whatever power you have in your denominator. Since this one's squared, I just have a single and a squared one. Now that we've got this set up and split up, the entire process is the same. So we start by multiplying our denominator to get rid of it. These ones go away. This one goes away with those two because they're both squared. This one goes away with one of them. And I get a times x plus 1 plus b. Now, we've already solved two of these from here on. So I would like you to pause the video at this point and try to get our final answer from this point forward. If you need to look back at your notes from the first two examples, you're more than welcome to. We are at the point where we need to simplify and organize. So pause the video, try to solve this from here, and then come back to check your work. Let's check your work. So I simplified. They already happen to be organized. So I put this with the 5 and these with the -1. Turns out to be a fairly simple system of equations because we already have one answer. So just plug the 5 into the other equation, substitution essentially, to get b, and then write out our answer. So that is our first example of repeated factors in the denominator. Let's try another one. Now notice this one doesn't have the denominator factored, so I do need to start with that. First thing I notice is that everything in this denominator has an x in common. Now this is my easier method of factoring because I don't have anything in front, so I just need to multiply to 1 and add to -2. So that's going to be -1 and -1 multiplies to +1 adds to -2. So this is x times x minus 1 squared. So this, when we go to split up our fraction, here I'm going to write this out a little differently, just a sec. Is a combination of example 1 and 2 and the last example we just did, example 3. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a over my first factor, x. Now I have repeated factors, so the first one is going to be single, and the second one is going to be squared, just like we did in the last example, in example 3. So now I've got this. Now, this is now example 4 of this process. So I'm going to have you start on your own even earlier this time. I would like you to start from here we should be on the step where we are multiplying everything out. We need to multiply both sides by this denominator. Then we can write out what's left, simplify and organize, and solve from there. So pause the video, try doing the rest of the 7 steps out on your own from this point. Let's check your work. So I started up here, I multiplied, canceled what I could, and wrote down what I had left. Then I simplified and organized. So I FOILed everything out, and then I started to organize. There's my x squareds, there's my x's, and that one is no x's. So I organized them together. Now, you may have gotten stuck a little bit right here with this 3. We just add a 0x squared and a 0x in front. That doesn't actually change anything because it's timesing by 0. But now I can easily see a plus b should be 0. This whole thing should be 0, and a should be 3. So there's my system of equations. You hopefully noticed this is already in upper triangular form. If I just flipped these 2 rows, then I would have upper triangular form, which means I can just plug a into this one to solve for b, and then plug a and b into this one to solve for c. Write out my final answer. So that is our second case where we have repeated linear factors. In the next video, we're going to do case number 3, which is a little different than anything else we've done so far this lesson.